There is such a peculiar depth of shame and that one feels after an obsessive-compulsive personality disordered meltdown, because you feel very infantilized at your own emotional reaction to seemingly insignificant things. But I want to share some perspective because I had a rather bad one yesterday that led to a little over an hour of sobbing, and I don't think that this is something that's talked about. So if you have OCPD, or if you might love someone that has OCPD, stick around. I am not a therapist or psychiatrist, just sharing my perspective as someone with a diagnosis. So if you don't know me, my name is Charm. I am a content creator here, and a lot of what I do is talk about my own neurodiversity as someone with autism, OCD, and obsessive-compulsive personality disorder. Today, in this one, I'm talking about that latter condition, and if you are unaware, it's different from the anxiety disorder, OCD, in that OCPD affects every aspect of your life. You feel that you're justified in it. It's going to be an ego-syntonic disorder, and it is kind of constituted by an obsessive need for perfection, order, productivity, and control in every aspect of your life. So I get triggered when I feel a loss of control. If I, for instance, have planned out my day in my head, and I know that I'm going to wear this outfit with this pair of shoes for the dinner party I'm going to tonight, if I get home from work and can't find that pair of shoes, it's going to eventually lead into a frenzied search for it, probably with me making a complete disaster of my room and ultimately crying if I can't find the right pair of shoes, because that's not the image that I had, that's not what's on the plan. And then you start getting frustrated with yourself at your reactions to things, because you're telling yourself, this isn't productive, this isn't mature, why am I crying over spilled milk? And it continues to spiral and spiral. So yesterday, I got my rent money out from the bank, brought it to work, and I ended up leaving it in my desk. I did not know this till I was on my way home from a show that I was at and realized I didn't have it. Not to get into too much of the circumstances, but I really, really needed to have that first thing this morning. I wouldn't be able to go back to work prior to when I needed it. So I go swing by my office, and I cannot find this rent money anywhere. I kind of ended up tearing apart my desk, taking everything out of all of my desk and filing cabinet drawers, emptying out all of my bags in a search for it, and it turned out to just be sitting underneath a legal pad. My manager was privy to this, and the whole time that I'm frantically searching, I'm trying to tell myself to keep it together because I need to have control of this situation, and this is not a good look. This is not good for your image or reputation. As I continued to not be able to find it, the searching became more frantic. I started getting overheated. You start to feel like you're going crazy, and your mind is catastrophizing, if that's even the right word. It's making catastrophe and over-exaggerating all of the ways that this could go wrong and how you are ultimately at fault. Then I started crying, because once I found the money, I realized, wow, look at you. You were just on the brink of tears, and you made a complete and utter disaster of your office simply looking for something. And for what? And that level of shame afterward, when, particularly if there's people to witness it, at this, you lost your sense of control over yourself, so you're disappointed in yourself beyond measure. But you lost sense of control over yourself because whatever plan you had in your head didn't end up working out. And most of the time, that's not your fault. That's just, you're stuck in traffic. Someone made a mistake. You forgot something. Human error. There's so little in our control anyway. And so when you realize that, and you know that people were witness to it, it leads to one of the greatest feelings of infantilization and shame, because you feel like you've just made an ass of yourself, and you're normally the pillar of control and perfection. And then, when you realize that you've thus made a mistake and acted in a childish way, even if this happens to you every time something like this occurs, the crying happens all over again, and it's more waterworks. I often tell people when I'm kind of in the middle or I feel a meltdown coming on, a lot of times people will tell you, breathe, calm down, it's fine, or like that other people don't care. And I do recognize that. But the one thing that I think sometimes gets lost is people don't understand as high of a standard as I hold other people to, which can oftentimes lead to interpersonal relationship difficulties. I hold myself to the same standard, if not one that is 10 times higher. So even the fact that I would not have put my rent money in a safe place in the first place and left it at work, how dare you, Charles? Let alone that now I've made a mess and my office and desk is completely out of order. That's triggering. Let alone I'm being ruled by my emotions, which I don't think is a good look. Let alone that someone else saw me make an ass of myself. And thus it spirals and it snowballs until you ultimately are left to do the only thing that you can to regain some sense of control, which is to self-sabotage, flee the scene, or have an outburst. If I am planning on bringing my vape pen to a theme park and it gets confiscated at the door, I would much rather go home than enjoy the theme park, you know. If I'm trying to style my hair for a party and it's not working, I would rather stay home than go to the party if I'm not going to have control over how it's supposed to be. It's not the healthiest approach, but it's a little different than, say, a sensory overload meltdown, or a meltdown that could maybe be led on more by ego or interpersonal problems. So this is a longer video as we're discussing a complex topic, again, one that snowballs into that outburst. So hopefully this has shed some light and perspective on what's going through people with OCPD's mind when we lose our sense of control, and how we are constantly battling to regain it, in spite of the shame that we'll feel at the infantilization that we place upon ourselves for punishing ourselves for the human experience. I hope that made sense, y'all. If this resonated, share if you think that this might shed some perspective for someone that needs to hear this, and comment if you have anything to add to this conversation. Vibes.